he's putting down guys like Otani and Freeman and Juan Soto, and like it's just it's storybook stuff. So I think that was a massive story and probably the biggest story that we saw Alberta related.
Welcome to the 2024 season finale, aka episode 312 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. It's hard to believe, but yes, after 50 plus episodes this season, not missing a week since January 11th, it is time to take our annual look back at the year that was and look ahead to the year to come. Our Ian Wilson will join us, as will a couple of special guests in just a few minutes. But first, as always, the news headlines. And we'll start with the MLB Rule 5 draft, which came and went with no movement for Vauxhall Academy grad Damiano Palmaggiani. He had been left unprotected by the Toronto Blue Jays. However, he was selected by the Cardenales de Lara of the Venezuelan Professional Baseball League in the first round of their free agent rookie draft. Not quite sure if he's planning to head down there or not at this point, but it's something we'll be keeping an eye on in the weeks to come. Former Medicine Hat Mavericks hurler Jacob Webb has found a new MLB home. After an outstanding season with the Baltimore Orioles, Webb has signed a free agent deal with the Texas Rangers. Congratulations to former Edmonton Cracker Cat star Stubby Clapp, as he's been named to the Baseball Canada Wall of Excellence. He'll be officially inducted during their banquet and fundraiser coming up on January 11th. Congratulations to Redcliffe's Caitlin Ross on being named Canada's women's hockey team for the FISU Winter World University Games. The newly crowned Baseball Alberta Open Women's Player of the Year is having another outstanding season between the pipes for Mount Royal University. It's been a crazy week for commitments around the province, so stick with me for a second because there's a lot of them. 9, in fact. We'll start with Red Deer Minor Baseball and St. Joseph Academy product Tanner Morrow, who kicked things off by announcing he's heading to the University of Pikeville. Dogs Academy hurler Kingston Bezusian will join the College of San Mateo. His Dogs teammate Louis Charles LaRouche heads to San Jose State University. This one was a big one. Spruce Grove and Vauxhall Academy product and episode 292 guest Easton Katura has committed to the University of Miami, where he'll be joining fellow friends of the show Tim Piazantine and Max Poirier. His Jets teammate Alexander Laurence will be going to the University of Nebraska Omaha. Weber Academy's Logan Weens is signing on with Trinity Christian College. Black Gold's Baseball and Badlands Academy product Aiden Marshall heads to Northeast Community College. His Badlands teammate Caleb Oikel joins Central Maine Community College. And finally, Athics hurler Tyler Bonin has signed on with Shoreline Community College. Plus, as has been the case for the last few weeks, Prairie Baseball Academy, the University of Calgary Dinos, and the Edmonton Collegiate Hawks have all been filling out their rosters of late. So congratulations, one and all, on heading to the next step in your respective baseball journeys. And again, make sure to tag us in your social media announcements, as we'll be doing our best to get all caught up on things in the first episode of the new year. On to this week's guests now, and we'll start with our own Ian Wilson, who was in Saskatoon last weekend for the Western Canadian Baseball League's annual general meeting. The league is coming off a record-breaking season in the stands and an outstanding campaign on the field, so it sounds like it was an opportunity to celebrate, but also a chance for them to discuss how to top it in 2025. They also had some awards to hand out, so let's get right into it. Ian, as always, thanks for coming on and joining us.
Thank you for having me as always.
Let's start with the WCBL AGM this past weekend in Saskatoon. Not a ton of big news, I'd say, but one of the overarching conversations might have been pace of play. What were some of your key takeaways from that conversation?
Yeah, so there were a few rule changes and rule alterations, and that was one of them. Discussion around pace of play. In 2024, the average game length was 2 hours, 45 minutes. And some games exceeded, not a lot, but some exceeded 4 hours. So I think they're just looking at ways to trim that a little bit. I don't think it's like, this isn't the same thing as Major League Baseball. There's not a concerted effort to hack off 30 minutes or anything like that. But to what they're doing is they're capping mound visits. So and that is either a visit from a coach, manager, or player to the mound, and they're limiting it to 6 per 9 innings. If there's extra innings, you get an additional mound visit each inning, and then there's a 3 batter minimum for pitchers. So that's very similar to the MLB rule. If a pitcher, say there's only one out to get for the pitcher, if the inning ends, the pitcher doesn't have to come back. But if they do come back, they've got to reach that three batter minimum.
Talk a little bit about roster sizes as well, because August 1st seems to hit every time, and there's some challenges around guys having to go back to their homes or to their colleges, or maybe they want to head home to see their girlfriends for a little bit. So, what was the topic of conversation when it comes to roster sizes?
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting with the Western Canadian Baseball League, this isn't the NHL or NBA or NFL. Like, you don't have athletes come in and they're there from training camp right through to playoffs with the same, with the same consistency. And there's very good reasons for that. Some of the athletes are not able to start the season with the team because they are still playing college baseball south of the border. They're in the playoffs or they're finishing up those seasons. And then later in the year, some of the schools want them back a little bit early. It's early August, or some of the athletes want to get a good jump on their university season, so they do leave a little bit early. So does have to be some flexibility. And what happened with the roster changes is it jumps from 30 active players to 32. So just a small jump there. And then affiliated players, which is typically your basically your high school athletes in the area who may join the roster, or academy players. That's 8 players you're allowed to have. So it's a total of 40 roster spots. 32 of them, I believe, are active. So it's a modest increase, and I think it's meant to just make sure that teams can have a little bit more flexibility when the playoffs come around, and also throughout the season. A lot of it's at the beginning of the year too, as you and I have seen. The you see some faces at the beginning of the year, and it might be a lot of affiliated players, like academy players, and you're like, oh, okay, these guys are getting some time. And then last game of the regular season is like, that is a very different lineup.
And conversely, I know in other markets, I'll use Fort McMurray as an example. By the end of the year, I think they saw 16 guys leave because of different reasons and rationales. And if they're in the midst of a playoff race with Brooks like they were this past year, that's a bit of a disadvantage, right? So there's a competitive advantage to being able to keep some of your veterans around for a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how an extra couple of bodies around by the end of the season might actually help. So good updates on that front. A big topic of conversation as well during the course of the AGM awards. And let's start on the umpiring side. Chris Hartley, we had on the show previously, is the umpire of the year, but he was also able to bring in a few ideas and have some conversations around what needs to happen to kind of keep the momentum rolling when it comes to the umpiring crews and some of the great work they're doing. What was the theme like from what you heard over the course of the weekend?
Yeah, Chris, that award, him winning the Mitch Ball Memorial Award for Umpire of the Year, that was previously announced and previously known. That's part of the reason he was on the podcast with us earlier. And Chris should know, just a great guy, great to talk to, great to pick his brain about anything officiating, whether it's WCBL or other levels of baseball, softball, fast pitch. He kind of covers all the bases, so to speak. And there were wider discussions on umpiring, and it was good to see a lot of them about how to support umpiring better, how to mentor and bring along young umpires, how to make sure that they're supported within the season. They got a lot of travel to do. It's not obviously not a glamorous job or position. So what things can the league do to support umpiring? And it was noted as well by the governors that they were quite satisfied with the umpiring in 2024. So these are all good things. Umpiring and officiating is often a topic of conversation, and you're not always going to please everyone, whether it's coaches, players, fans. There's going to be hiccups, blips along the way, whatever you want to call them. And it's just, I think you want to keep that to a minimum and make sure that the umpires know what they're doing. They know their role. They know that they're supported. And at the annual meetings, they were described as the 13th team in the WCBL, and I think that's important to they hear a lot of negative comments, and they need to hear the positive. They need to get the roses when they earn them as well.
Speaking of awards, Tyler Hollick named Executive of the Year. Give us some insights into the conversations had about making that selection.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't privy to all that went into the decision there, but I think we can safely say that was well earned. That was Tyler, you and I deal with on a fairly regular basis, and he's done a great job in Okotoks, not just this year, but in previous seasons. He's got he's basically helped guide the team to its third straight championship. It was another record-breaking year for attendance. In the middle of that season, you've also got the All-Star game in Okotoks. There's, not to mention other academy things going on at Siemens Stadium and the facilities there. So, Tyler's a busy a busy guy. It's fair to say, and he does a great job. He just really does. So it was good to see him win that award. I did ask him after. I was like, "Hey, did you know this was coming?" And he's like, "No, I had no idea." So I think he was genuinely genuinely blown away a little bit by the honor. And it's like I said, you want to see people who do such a great job recognized, and it's just like I said, well earned and good to see him get that award.
Especially when you've got a team who's coming off back to back to back championships like they are, and they manage to have a target on their back every year, and every team you can tell is trying to gun for that and trying to get better. And Okotoks continues to just churn it out, and it was a tougher grind this year for sure, especially come playoff time. But and they weren't the top team from start to finish either. So there's they managed to pull out another victory. So congratulations to Tyler Hollick. Congratulations to Chris Hartley as well, on the Umpire of the Year again, who we had back on the show a few episodes ago. Ian, a couple of new faces around the AGM table as well. Talk a little bit about what you saw out of Josh Ionetti and Jamie LeBlanc.
Yeah, so Josh did talk to him on the phone on the way to the meetings. He was not in attendance, but he Josh was a player with the Fort McMurray Giants in 2016 and 2019. He transitioned to a front office role with the team, tracking down sponsors, things like that. After that, Josh's father, Dutchy, is the owner of the team, the president of the team, and he's so Josh is pretty eager. He's a busy guy. He is. He's got a day job, and he's got a young family as well. So he's got a lot on his plate, but he's an eager guy, and he's excited to be, just taking on a more significant leadership role with the Giants. And just his goal, I think, was just bringing fun to the ballpark, bringing an energy to the ballpark. I was looking at their social media today. I know they were doing some season ticket sales, and they had a bit of a slash in pricing. And I know they've already sold a bunch today. So good on him for doing that. And yeah, we'll see. I think they want to get that nice ballpark they have up there packed a little more than they have in previous years, and it looks like they're well on their way. And the other guy you mentioned, Jamie LeBlanc, he takes over for Brad Woods in Swift Current. Brad has been on the board of governors for 17, I believe, years. So he's a familiar, hardworking face in that community. He's put in long hours, and I think it's taken a bit of a toll. And I think he's just needs to step back for his own good for a little bit. And kudos to him for all he's done. He's also done work at the league level as WCBL VP of admin. So he's just ingrained in the league. With Jamie stepping in, I think he's like, hey, let's get some fresh eyes. He's been in Swift Current for a long time as well and been around the team. So he's just looking to get fresh eyes on things. What can we maybe do differently, and what can we do to grow the attendance figures a bit? Hopefully, just similar to Fort McMurray, and making the ballpark fun, making it a place to be, making it exciting. And what improvements can you make, big or small, to get fans out to Mitchell Field?
Obviously, both teams looking to get back into the playoff race as well. As one final question for you from the AGM, Ian, and then we're going to have a couple of guests from that AGM. What's your sense of the vibe around the table after taking that in for 3 days? What's the feeling coming out of 2024 and what's the feeling heading in to 2025?
I think generally speaking, and this was the first AGM and annual meetings that I have been at that table and been a part of, so I was very thankful to have a seat at the table and just see what's going on there and be privy to what's happening. But first of all, it was a phenomenal year. It was just a great year. You had a record-breaking year for attendance, crashed through that 400,000 fans mark, which was big. Um, you had a franchise in Saskatoon that came in and just nailed it, just did phenomenal. And just planted your flag in Saskatoon, the biggest market in Saskatchewan. So that was great to see. You had a new website for the league that performed very well and was very well liked. Social media numbers were up across the board. So just from that side of things, it was a great year. This isn't obviously a league that's going to say, okay, we did it. We're all done. The goal is to get better and continue to make improvements. And I was struck by as well the professionalism. I think you and I have been kind of around this league for 7-8 years in Alberta Dugout Stories and Saskatchewan Dugout Stories capacity. And I think there's always been a professional part to the league, but I think it's really elevated at this point. And we're seeing, I think we're just seeing this isn't just a league where it's like, oh yeah, like maybe you'll see some college kids and whatever. There's a concerted effort to make every market great and make every market perform well in terms of attendance and on the field. And so I think, like I said, I think you're seeing that it's everyone's trying to row together and get headed in the right direction. So it's good to see that and good to see that camaraderie and cooperation for the most part. You'll still get some debates on some things, but I think that's healthy as well. I think you need to have some dissension on some topics and healthy debate on topics. But more importantly, it's just recognizing, hey, we actually are all a team off the field and we need to work together on things. And that was quite evident.
All right, we're going to let Ian take a bit of a breather here. We'll discuss our highlights of the 2024 season and what's to come in 2025 in a minute. But first, a couple of interviews he did from the AGM. We'll start with Saskatoon Berries president Steve Hildebrand, whose team knocked it out of the park in almost every way imaginable, coming within a game of going to the league championship. They were also hailed for their work on social media, earning them the social media team of the year at the AGM. So here is our Ian Wilson with Steve Hildebrand.
From an outsider's perspective, 2024 was a pretty epic year for the Saskatoon Berries. Give us your rundown of what you saw both on the field and off of it.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it was epic. I mean, exceeded all our expectations for sure. At the end of the day, we have a great team here, a great group of people behind the scenes that pulled this off. And, it's a vision we had for a few years. I'm really appreciative of all the teams for welcoming us in. And, it was great. Right from marketing to naming the team to colors. And then what Joe Carnahan and his staff did on the field was awesome. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to the players. And they competed every night and really grew some affinity to this city. And the fans came out. It was awesome in one word.
Brett, let's break down a few of those things quickly. Why don't we start with the marketing and the social media side of things? Because you guys were you just knocked it out of the park. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, you know what? Again, having done this with our other teams, right, with the Blades and the Rush, we got a great, footprint on how to go about things, how to do things. We teach our people right from the ground up on, especially the communications piece, and they just did a wonderful job. Every night, every day, something was going on, and super proud of them for sure.
And merch-wise, part of the marketing was a merch success. You guys just couldn't keep hats in stock. People were snapping stuff off.
Yeah, I think when you get Morgan Wallen and Snoop Dogg wearing your stuff, you've done pretty good. Yeah. And I think that also helped just amplify everything that we did. I think, overall our merch sales were unbelievable. We couldn't keep it in. And, it was a fine balance of what do we need to bring in next? How much do we have? And it just hasn't ended. And Christmas is around the corner, and I know people with the toques are almost sold out already too. So I think it was fantastic. And I have challenged our group to execute in year 2.
On the field, talk about that coaching staff. I think it's you almost had an embarrassment of coaches for an expansion team. I felt like having Joe Carnahan, Andrew Albers, Chance Wheatley. Just run through that.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, his name speaks for itself in this league, right? And at the end of the day, his calming influence on everything we do is just superb, and it's he's won for a reason. And super excited to have him on our team. And he's an unbelievable human being. And, bringing in Andrew and Chance, I think that they just really complemented our group. We can't forget about Alex Archuleta, too. He was awesome for our group. He was kind of that energy guy. And our coaching staff was great, which was led by Joe, obviously. But players knew where they stood every day. They worked hard every day. They were unbelievable in the community, and that's just a tribute to Joe and how he operates.
You had a star player in Carter Beck. Like, he hits for the cycle in the playoffs, picked up some individual awards, was a beast in the All-Star game and the home run derby. But you had some star talent beyond that. Maybe talk to the roster and just the ability to recruit quality players.
Yeah, and I think what's cool now is everyone's seeing what we do and how we do things, and even someone that hasn't played for us understands and knows who the Saskatoon Berries are. And obviously Carter Beck, I mean, what more can we say about the kid, right? He has been unbelievable, and he not only just what he did on the field, but in the community, and that just helps us keep moving forward. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think everything's amplified about the run we made, how we did things. I know we started off the season a little slow last year. I never at one point felt that we're in trouble, right? I felt really confident in Joe and who we had brought in, and we had the 5 All-Stars did a great job, but we had such a good local group, right? And I'm not sure who it was. It was tough for everyone was wondering how many local people we had. I wanted to make it a mandate, but they had to earn their spot. It wasn't a given, and these kids came in, and we had a great local contingent, which really helped, and really good glue pieces on our team. And yeah, again, it was a dream season for sure. We're excited about year 2, and it's up to us to execute that.
All right, no more softball questions. Enough about how good 2024 was. What do you do for an encore?
It's our mandate to be in the playoffs every year. It doesn't matter which team we have. So that's the expectation. We just have to keep building off of what we have. And, I think, the cool part is our people have seen what it looks like now. They had no idea going into the season. Now we can be even better, and we're going to do that. We're going to be better. I know we have a few things in mind at the Ball Stadium that we're going to do, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We got some new promotions that are going to happen, and I think we're just going to build off what happened in year 1, and I know Joe's going to do a great job, and we'll be right there again.
You don't seem like an organization that's content to just put your feet up after that year.
We're not content. No, we're like anyone else. We want to win a championship. Yeah. We want to win in the community, which we do every day. And I think at the end of the day, we're just gonna we want to make the playoffs, and then we'll go from there. So our goal is, like everyone else in this league, is win a championship, and that's where we are.
Have you caught your breath from? I know you've got other teams. Yeah. Obviously, have you been able to catch your breath, have a look at last year, and look ahead to next year? And in that, was there any moments that stood out from you to like, wow, I can't believe this was happening?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think that, yes, I've caught my breath for sure. At the end of the year, we went over, Joe and Mark, who's a director of baseball operations, from a team side of things, we went over everything and, what we needed to do better, what we needed to work on. And, I think of the Ethan Menard home grand slam early in the year. All of a sudden, that hit just energized our city. People saw that. We didn't win that game, but Menard became a fan favorite, and people saw that. And he also, we needed something like that. Carter, obviously, he started going. Everyone jumped on board. Everyone loved seeing him. It was great. I think the day we clinched the playoffs, and emotional here, the team gave me the game ball, that was unbelievable. Like, that to me was like, we got here, right? Because this has been a vision for a while. This wasn't just like, hey, let's throw a baseball team. Like, it's been a vision for a while, and it's not just myself, it's our group. But that day was really like, man, we're here. And then to upset Medicine Hat in the playoffs is pretty cool. And we just got the city going. And, and then we play Moose Jaw in an unbelievable series and we lose out. But, extremely proud of our group for the year we had.
Well, you helped make purple a part of the landscape and the color scheme in Saskatoon. Congratulations on the season. I think we're all excited to see what 2025 holds. Just thank you for making time for me as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
And as mentioned, a couple of new faces around the table at the WCBL AGM. One of them is new Swift current 57's president, Jamie LeBlanc. He takes over for Brad Woods, who served in the position for 17 years. The 57s had a rough go in 2024, finishing in the East Division cellar with a 16-39 record, so they'll be looking to turn a corner next summer. Here's Ian Wilson with Jamie LeBlanc.
Why don't we start with just talking a little bit about Brad Woods, who's been with the 57s for, well, I'm not sure the exact number of years, but for a very long time. Tell me a little bit about his role and how you came to know him over the years.
Yeah, I've lived in Swift for quite a while, and Woody's been, heavily involved in the 57s program for, I think it's upwards of 15 years or something like that. And he's put in a ton of time, and he's done a great job with the program, and I think he's just a little tired, and he's had a few other things on the go, and I think wants to spend a bit of time with his family. So I've learned a little. I haven't been on the board too long, but I've been in and around, and I helped out the club, back in its former days when Joe Carnahan was around, and kind of did a little bit of medical stuff with him to help him. So I've kind of been around the club for a fair number of years, and so I've known Woody for ages. And he I think he was just tapping out. It's a tough role, volunteers. In a lot of these positions, I think you get mentally exhausted, you get worn down, and you miss out on a lot of family things and things like that. So, he was just looking for somebody to come in and help him and step in and take over the role. And I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun and a bit of a challenge. We're not in the greatest financial situation at the moment, but we're hoping with some fresh ideas. We've got a great board, and we've got some great volunteers on the board. We're hoping that we can kind of plod through this little valley that we're in, and we'll kind of make our way up the mountain and get back up to a peak again, and go from there.
Give us a little bit, if you can, of your resume and any involvement with baseball you've had. You touched on involvement with Swift, and just how you came into the role as well.
Right on. Yeah. No, I like I said, I've lived in town for a number of years. I own a sports store in town. Plus, I own a little pro shop, skate sharpening and things like that in town as well. And I was heavily involved in slow pitch for a number of years, and so kind of always been a bit of a sporty guy. I was never a very good baseball player myself, but always enjoyed being around the game and nights out at the ballpark and things like that. So it's always good, and like I said, I'm just looking forward to kind of jumping on board and like I said, just be another mind, another set of eyes or ears or some different ideas, a little bit of boots on the ground, just to try to, come up with some different things to help the club.
It's a organization with a very proud history in this league and in the predecessors of this league. What have you seen early on, and it is very early on for you, that you've identified as priorities for moving forward, or things that you want to do or look at even? Yeah,
it is really early. I think our AGM was only about 2.5 weeks ago. I think it is now. So to be honest, I haven't even ran my first board meeting yet. But we were just here at the league AGM, and I'm really encouraged by the aside from what we have to do, but I'm really encouraged by the support around the league. The league does want everybody to have success and to have and to succeed, and not be in a tough situation. So I'm really encouraged by that. I think there's going to be a lot of support, whether it be from, can we call on a couple other teams? Hey, what did you do here? What did you do there? Whether it be, Mark Stiles within the league or other, I think there's lots of resources that we're going to be able to pull from, aside from our own minds. And then, we're just hoping that we can, we just want to get more butts in the seats. So we're going to try some different promotions, and we're going to try to, make sure our concession food's good. And, not that there's anything wrong with stuff before, but we're going to try some fresh things. And, we're hoping we can kind of make the ballpark, a fun place to be for, June, July, and hopefully into August. And our goal is, ultimately, our goal, we're hoping to have a good ball program this year and have some success on the field, get back into the playoffs, which always helps, the bottom line as well. And then, like I said, we just want fans to have a good experience. We're going to try to, change some things that way. And, families come out and they're going to have a good time. And they're just going to leave. Sometimes we're even hoping they leave going, I don't even remember what the score was last night, but wow, did we have fun doing this, or did you see the kids doing this? So, that's our ultimate goal. The baseball product is what everyone's going to come to see, but we just want to make sure the fan experience is really top notch too.
Last question for you, and I appreciate you making time for me. December 2025, you're looking back on the 2025 season. What are you hoping to say about successes that you've had?
I'm not thinking that we're going to change the world, or we're going to make everything, in 1 year go crazy for us. But we're just hoping that, we're going to be able to go, fans had a good time. We had more average attendance. They were excited. The players were good ambassadors in the city, and they got out to community events and things like that. And on the flip side, that the players enjoyed their time in Swift and at Mitchell Field, and they're, Coach Rudy's able to kind of build on that and again take us another step further going into 2026, and away we go.
Jamie, thanks for your time, and all the best in the next season.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Back with Ian Wilson as we take a look back at 2024 and look ahead to 2025. And Ian, when you look back on this past year, how are you going to remember it?
Yeah, you usually ask me this question year end, and sometimes I'm like, I'm really like, I don't know, how will I look back? I thought there were actually some clear storylines, some clear winners, I guess, to monitor and watch. And I think top of the list was Eric Zabrowski. Just seeing, you and I've told you this, I've told other people this. I think he was my first in-person interview for Alberta Dugout Stories back when he was with the Prospects. And I remember chatting with him in Okotoks, and great kid. You've had him on the podcast several times since then, and just the 2 Tommy John surgeries and everything he's been through. And just, honestly, in watching him with the Prospects and then watching him at Cloud County, just a beast of a player, whether it was as a hitter or as a pitcher. I remember seeing some of those games. Oh, did you see what Zabrowski did today? He had 16 Ks, or he had 18 Ks, or all these. He was just shattering school records at the time. And I'm not a scout, so I never know where that journey is going to go. But to see him get drafted and Rule 5, and then just everything with his MLB debut. Not like he gets called up and then he has to sit there and wait. And then you're like, what's going on here? And then he gets in, and then he doesn't allow any runs, the entire regular season. And then it's like, okay, yeah, Cleveland's looking pretty good. And then he's pitching in the playoffs. And then he's pitching at Yankee Stadium, and along the way, he's putting down guys like Ohtani and Freeman and Juan Soto. And like, it's storybook stuff. So I think that was a massive story, and probably the biggest story that we saw Alberta related. The other two that come to mind for me are the WCBL playoffs as a whole.
Yeah.
Like wow, like that was a masterpiece of a playoffs. Like I just can't recall watching beginning to end playoffs, and the end was perfect. You know,
Mhm.
walk off, hometown kid, hometown ballpark to win it in extras. Like it just was, there's so much. It was so jam packed, and you just like everything everywhere all at once in the best possible ways. So I just, I could go on about that, but I don't want that to get lost as the years tick by. That was a magnificent playoffs. And the other story I think within the WCBL is, as mentioned, was the Saskatoon Berries. We got to the Berries had a presentation at the annual meetings just about some of their marketing and some of the behind the scenes stuff that they had going on in implementing their team brand and their identity. And it was really fun to see how they did things, how they went about things, and they did just such a good job in that market. And their arrival was fantastic, and to the point where the problem for them is going to be how do we maintain it? We've set the bar so high. How do we possibly keep it going? But it's great for baseball in Saskatchewan. It's great for the WCBL. It's good for Western Canadian baseball fans.
I can't believe you missed out one of the biggest stories in baseball in Western Canada in 2024, the launch of Saskatchewan Dugout Stories.
Yeah,
How
yeah. How could I? Yeah, yeah.
well, it is one that it is self-serving, but I think at the same time speaks to where that province is in its baseball maturation, and you see it from the grassroots where earlier this week we put out the story about baseball Sask being named province of the year by Baseball Canada as an example. You see the women's program, the girls and women's programs. I think they had three different tournaments and medaled in one and were just off the podium in two others. Um, and then you go to the Sask side and you're seeing guys getting drafted and guys signing big NAIA or NCAA Division One commitments. Like there's a lot of really cool things happening in Sask. So really proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. So kudos to you as well on being able to weather the storm of all of the content from not just one province. So that was a pretty big story in my book. The other story, Michael Soroka. How about his comeback from being 0-10 to start the season as a starter, or 0-9, and then getting relegated to the bullpen and just being like, all right, I guess I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It was outstanding. Like he was one of the better relievers and might have earned himself a pretty good payday as a free agent here, depending on what teams happen to do. You and I have mused over text about, especially yesterday when Cleveland and Toronto make the deal for Jimenez, and we're sitting there going, so is Adam Macco or Damiano Palmagiani going to be a part of that deal? Imagine if Michael Soroka ends up signing in Cleveland. Like all of a sudden, the Cleveland Canadians become a factor because Matt Wilkinson had himself an outstanding season in Cleveland's farm system. He's going to be probably double A to start 2025 and might very well be in triple A by the end of the year if all things go as well as they did in year one. There's another storyline. The guys in the minors, whether it's Adam Macco, as mentioned, Damiano led Toronto Blue Jays farm hands in home runs, and yet is still not being kept on the roster. I'll never understand that. We'll see how we're recording this right before the Rule 5 draft, so we'll see how this all plays out. You look at Matt Lloyd's comeback in the St. Louis's farm system and how he did at Double A in Springfield. You look at Tristan Peters in Triple A with Durham and Tampa Bay system. So many cool storylines, and they go all the way down to the grassroots and the Medicine Hat major Triple A Mavericks coming a win away from going to Williamsport as an example, and just so many cool stories and such a great season to cover it, and can't wait for 2025. On that note, what's on your radar for 2025? We do this every year. I don't want you to tip your hat to what we're going to be working on, but is there anything that you're really kind of excited about or storylines that you're intrigued to watch heading into the new year?
Yeah, first of all, I'll backtrack a little bit because this is why I love having you around. I am not the best at self-promotion, obviously, but I think you're right. Bringing Saskatchewan into the fold in the form of Saskatchewan Dugout Stories was a massive development for us, and hopefully for baseball journalism in the province. And yeah, it's just great to expand there. It is a fantastic baseball market, an emerging one, a growing one. So yes, perhaps an oversight on my part. I would add I did have amongst my honorable mentions the likes of Mike Soroka and Matt Wilkinson and Carter Beck as well. I did mention the Berries, but Carter Beck was the big star on that team as well. So looking ahead, that kind of leads into looking ahead. I think a lot of it on the player side of things, like there's so many guys in that pro level that they just seem on the cusp and ready to make the next step, whether that is Tugboat, Matt Wilkinson, or whether that is Tristan Peters. Jacob Melton isn't a Canadian guy, but he played with the Dogs, and he's a highly touted Astros prospect who was in AAA last year. Can these guys be the next guys to get that call up and emerge? And there's other guys I'm forgetting about and not mentioning, but there's a lot of guys at the pro ranks who we could see in the majors next year. So that's one thing I'm definitely keeping an eye on. And I think Soroka deserves his own what's next for this guy kind of lens, because I think you can say that about Sabrowski because we've talked about him and he had this dream season, but I think it's safe to say we're going to see more of him with the Guardians next year, and we'll see what that looks like. But Soroka is a little bit more intriguing because he's had that storied past as a starter, moving to an organization, struggling with that team after that, moves to the White Sox and struggles in the starter's role. And you're right, like he just was phenomenal as a reliever. And some of the reading up I've done on Soroka this offseason, he has yet to sign, of course, is some teams are looking at him as a starter again, which I found a little bit surprising, but we know he's got that ability in him. So do we see Soroka as a starter? Like, is he in a rotation somewhere? Would he like to go back to being a starter, or does he become this elite reliever, whether that's middle relief or closing? There's a lot of exciting possibilities for him, and just that where does he land? What team does he go to? So we'll see where that takes us, and yeah, and I'm we're in Canada, so should mention the Blue Jays. There's a lot to unpack with where they're at and where they're going. I just have a lot of question marks with them, so I don't even know, especially when they don't have their personnel all in place yet. So maybe we'll leave that that spotlight for another day. How about you? What are you looking at for 2025?
You know, the one storyline that we didn't touch in 2024 that segues into 2025 is the MLB draft. It was a banner year for the WCBL, a banner year for Western Canada as a whole. When it comes to, you saw Nathan Fluelling and Jack Lyons and Eric Hartman and Micah McDowell and Eric Radicich, and I think it was 13 total with connections to the WCBL, plus Cohen Aiken, who's a friend of the show as well. It's going to be interesting to see where they all land to start the season. I imagine it's going to be a single A situation, maybe high A in some cases, but to see their progression, because now that they've had a taste of it, where do they go with it? How do they adjust to it? That's a big storyline in my books. And the other one I think is going to be the growth of the game in these two provinces when it comes to the WCBL. Like, how do you top? I said it last year. I was like, after 2023, I'm like, how do you top that? That was such a great year. And they did. Obviously, Edmonton moving out to Spruce Grove is going to be a major storyline when that stadium gets open and they get that put into place. I've already told everybody about my love of the rural roots game as an example and the possibilities of expanding that beyond 2025. There's so many different facets, even just chatting with people from Little League Alberta during their AGM and Baseball Alberta after their AGM. There's a level of excitement around the game because it's still growing here. There's still a lot of ample opportunities in that for not just growth at the pro level or the college level, but at the grassroots level as well. And that's the storyline to me, and that's what excites me the most about it, is that everybody's getting excited about the momentum that the game has. So that's it in a nutshell. It's very Miss America pageant-esque, and I get that, but I can't help but get excited about how far this game has come in just a short amount of time that we've been privy to sitting, not necessarily in the driver's seat, but certainly in a back seat kind of role with ADS and SDS.
I think too, you touch on some good things with the WCBL because a lot of the discussion we've had on it is from a business side of things for the league and what do the numbers look like and the growth that way. I think there is a lot of on-field intrigue for the league next year. And you brought up Spruce Grove and that ballpark. Well, that's going to be exciting to see what that looks like and what the new team is, right? You get all of those fun things around the game, and just seeing hopefully some games at that stadium, everything goes smoothly in getting it built and getting it put together. So really can't wait to see that. The Rural Roots game you mentioned, that will be a fun one. And then just things like, hey, you've got Sylvan Lake who set a wins record last year. Hey, that's going to be the year they beat the Dogs in the playoffs, right? Nope. Sorry, guys. And those rivalries, what happens in terms of playoffs next year? Everyone always looks at the Dogs, and they should. They've won 3 straight. If there is to be another team take that away from them, who's it going to be? What's that going to look like? Can the Dogs possibly maintain? The last time they won a three-peat, they didn't win a title for 9 or 10 years. So now it's a well-organized group there. So I'm not suggesting that's what the future holds, but I just think all those questions are going to be fun to watch and to see where Sylvan bounces to. And Lethbridge had a really good under the radar team last year. And what can we expect from them? Regina Red Sox always seem to put together a good team. Is this a year that the Berries just take another step on the field, right? Can they win a title? All these fun questions, right? And like that's the fun part of this league. So the on-field stuff has as much intrigue as any of the business side of things as well.
I said it during the season and I repeated it after the season. We'll repeat it here again, is it felt like every team in the WCBL had a chance of beating every other team on any given night all season long. Even chatting with Cam Williams from Weyburn, and he said, listen, we went through a really rough stretch where I think they lost 15 or 16 in a row. And he said like 9 or 10 of them were one-run ball games. And you sit there and go, if you get 3 of those, you're in the dance, right? And as Express proved, you just got to get there, right? As a 4th place team in the East to come back and beat Regina, not just beat them, but sweep the Red Sox, and then get in that great series with Saskatoon that ends in 3, and then take Okotoks to the very, very last at bat. Shows that all you got to do is get there. So every team knows that they've got a chance, right? So it's gonna be fun to watch that. It's gonna be fun to watch as well. A couple of national championships heading out here as well. The Men's Baseball Canada National Championship happens in Regina in August, and the new 19U girls. They've changed it over from 21U to 19U. That one's happening in Calgary. I've heard rumblings it's Weber Academy that's going to be hosting it, but I'm endeavoring to figure out exactly where Calgary is on the Baseball Canada schedule. So a lot to look forward to. And Ian, we're going to be there every step of the way. As always, a pleasure to get you on the show. Thanks so much for all your hard work this season. Looking forward to our part 2 of our AGM in a week or so. And looking forward to 2025. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that fun stuff, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone who listens. Hope everyone has a great holiday season and a great New Year's. And keep watching for content. We slow down this time of year, but I still like to grab a rum and eggnog and maybe piece a story together on the fly over the holidays. So we'll probably do that.
Hashtag stay tuned. Thanks again, Ian.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Ian Wilson, Steve Hildebrand, and Jamie LeBlanc for joining us this week. And thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. We are truly grateful for all the support we get from all of you year in and year out. Thank you for making 2024 such a fun, exciting season to cover baseball in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Whether you listen to one episode or every episode this year, we can't thank you enough and can't wait to bring you even more great conversations in 2025. As always, one final tip of the cap for the 2024 season to our Platinum supporters, the Okotoks Dogs, Western Canadian Baseball League, and Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment for all they do for us and for baseball in Alberta. We'd also like to thank all of our sponsors in both provinces, as their generosity has been nothing short of outstanding. For more on our teammates and to get involved in 2025, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. From our dugouts to yours, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and thank you for all your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories. We'll see you all again in 2025.